Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at Togekiss VMAX. Now, this was not high up on my list of Pokemon that I thought was going to get a VMAX. I'm willing to bet that it wasn't high up on your list of Pokemon that you thought was going to get a VMAX, but it is getting a new VMAX. And what is very cool, I have the official Pokemon Page a Day calendar, and today's Pokemon is Togepi. So that's quite nice. Now, our translation, of course, does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet. I'm assuming most of you probably guessed that by now. And if we start off with the basics of Togepi V, because of course we have a V and a V Max, we got 200 HP, which is probably slightly on the low side, but nothing to get too particularly upset about. We got a retreat cost of 1, which does mean free retreat with U-turn board, which is really good now that we got Tool Scrapper back. They can scrap it, but it just goes back to your hand. We got a resistance to fighting, and bearing in mind all the people that are going to be trying to counter Pokemon like Eternatus VMAX, that means you got resistance to all of those counters. That is a very, very nice thing indeed. And we've got a weakness to lightning, and honestly, I mean, look, Pikachu and Zekrom has been good since it came out. But then, like yesterday, I showed you Amazing Rare Raikou, link in the description, that looks really good. And Zekrom that looks really good. So I would be slightly worried about lightning weakness. It really is starting to look like being weak to lightning is not a particularly good thing. And you are a colorless Pokemon, which means you're not hitting anything for weakness, but you do have powerful colorless energy now. Yay, there's a bonus, which is strong energy for colorless Pokemon. When it's attached to a colorless Pokemon, you do an extra 20 damage. What does it do? Well, the first attack here for 1 colorless energy does 20 damage, unless it is an evolution Pokemon it's fighting against. If the defending Pokemon is an evolution Pokemon, you do 90 damage instead. 90 damage for 1 energy is really nice. But is it enough? Like, how many evolution Pokemon are really going down to this? Yeah, sure, Chinchino's an evolved Pokemon that's got 90 HP, so that will go down. Malamar is rotating, but that was an evolved Pokemon that had 90. But most evolved Pokemon have more than 90 HP. I mean, powerful colorless energy gets you up to 110, which is kind of lovely, but that's not getting a one-hit KO on Excadrill. So as much as I love that you're doing more damage against an evolved Pokemon, I don't know that you're necessarily doing enough. I do like that it's a basic Pokemon that attacks for a single colorless energy. That's kind of cool. But honestly, I don't know how often you're going to be using this, because most of the time, even when you get the extra damage, it's just not going to be enough. And the second attack really does not fill me with joy here. Free colorless energy, 130 damage. Yeah. The problem is this doesn't hit anything for weakness. If you hit for weakness, and anything you hit for weakness that was a Pokemon V or below, even most tag teams, especially if you added a Vitality Band, would be going down in 1 hit. 130 with weakness is one of the key numbers right now. But 130 without weakness, I mean, look, you will get most single prize Pokemon. You'll get stuff like the aforementioned Raikou and Zekrom, for instance. But I honestly don't think it's worth it. It's just not good enough. You can use Welder to pay the energy, but you can't use Triple Acceleration Energy because you're a basic, and you can't use Twin Energy because you're a Pokemon V, so it's not even that easy to pay the attack cost, and you just end up in a super awkward position. These attacks aren't bad, but they're not particularly good. It almost feels like it's just here to act as a conduit for Togekiss VMAX, which is good. Now we go up to 310 HP, which to be fair is still low for a VMAX, not quite as low as something like Morpeko, but we're literally 10 HP above, so let's not get too excited. Same weakness and resistance, but we do gain free retreat, because as Antoine Boulet put it, giant Easter Zeppelins are known for their total mobility. Could not agree more. But it's still lovely to have. Free retreat is awesome. After a KO, in order to retreat if you get confused, etc. It's great to have free retreat. We love that, even if the HP is slightly low. And we literally have one single attack that is absolutely worth it. 2 colorless energy, 120 damage. Search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand. Yes. Now look, this is less damage than we saw on Togekiss V. I've just got done telling you that 130 damage isn't enough. Now my job is essentially to try and convince you that 120 damage is. And the fact of the matter is, it's not always. But here's the thing. This has free retreat. And when you attack, you get to search your deck for any 2 cards. So hopefully at this stage you can all see where I'm going. You don't necessarily play this as a deck in and of itself. You play it as a nice tech in other decks. Maybe the V does take down something like Chinchino. And then when you're in a position to get a KO and you don't need to use your main attacker, in comes Togekiss VMAX, takes the KO while letting you search your deck for any 2 cards, and then next turn you just retreat if you've not got a KO. And this is perfect. You could search for a boss's orders, so you know you've got the gusting for next turn. Or you could actually go for 2 custom catcher, or at least you could pre-rotation, I suppose. But you could go and get yourselves a couple of crushing hammer, for instance, so that you've got a really good chance of getting rid of your opponent's energy. Or you could go and get yourself a Galarian Zigzagoon and a Scoop Up Net, so you can go and drop a couple of extra damage. Or you could go and grab yourself a Mallow and Lana for a little bit of healing, plus, and you see where I'm going with this. Literally anything you need. And that's why I love this. I don't see this as a deck where you just hit for 120 with Togekiss every turn. I think that's not enough damage. It's a little bit weak, and I don't think it's often enough going to lead to victory. What I do see this as is a lovely 1-1 or 2-2 tech in a bunch of decks where if you've got the opportunity, you come and get the KO with this as opposed to your regular attacker, and you search any 2 cards in the meantime. And sure, maybe your opponent drops a Marnie, and maybe your opponent drops a reset stamp, and if they know that you've just searched your deck for the perfect 2 cards, there's probably an excellent chance they're gonna try and drop one of those cards to make you reshuffle your hand into your deck. And if they do, they do. I mean, at the very least in that situation, you've at least forced them into playing that card that they maybe weren't going to be playing anyway. You force them to dig for a new supporter. If they're playing Marnie, they can't play Boss's Orders, as a nice example. But the fact of the matter is, I love the idea of searching for any cards. And it's not like this is completely new and unique. We have seen this before. We've seen it on Braixen and Charizard. The thing is, or Charizard and Braixen is the actual name. And the thing is that Charizard and Braixen, it's been very much a fringe card. You'll see it popping up in a whole bunch of deck lists, but not always the best deck lists, and usually not as more than a one-off. And for 4 energy, you do 180 damage, and search your deck for any free cards. Now clearly, Charizard and Braixen is hitting for weakness. Charizard and Braixen is doing 50% more damage, and it is searching out 50% more cards. But it's for double the energy. One of the biggest issues with Charizard and Braixen is you can't just go welder energy go. You've got to be setting it up a turn in advance. Well, that's not an issue here for Togekiss. And that's another thing I love. Any energy acceleration. You can use Welder. You can use Tapu Koko Prism Star. You can use that Turbo Patch card. You can use whatever you want to try and accelerate energy to it and then go. The HP is lower than we would like. The weakness doesn't seem like it's going to be a good weakness. It doesn't do that much damage. But the fact of the matter is, if you're getting a KO, while guaranteeing that you've got the 2 perfect cards for next turn ready to go, that sounds like something that's probably going to end up in success. I can't make any promises here, but I think there is a lot to get excited about. I'm going to go ahead and give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I think there's a lot of potential here as a tech, if not its own deck. But I would be very excited to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.